The distinction between life and lifeless is a human construct. What we call organic and inorganic only reveals how little we know about our universe. The apocalypse is not something which is coming. The apocalypse has arrived in major portions of the planet, and it's only because we live within a bubble of incredible privilege and social insulation that we still have the luxury of anticipating the apocalypse. Humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together. All things connect. Life is a planetary level phenomenon, and the Earth has been alive for a really long time. I will avoid saying numbers at all costs. The human move to take responsibility for the living Earth is sweet and laughable. The planet takes care of us, not we of it. Our self-inflated moral imperative to guide a wayward Earth or heal a sick planet is evidence of our immense capacity for self-delusion. Rather, we need to protect us from ourselves. How, you ask? Through listening to Earth rhythms. All atoms in your body existed before organic life emerged. Remember our childhood as minerals, as lava, as rocks? Yeah, maybe those shamans know a thing or two. They say that man's heart, away from nature, becomes hard. They knew that lack of respect for growing, living things soon led to a lack of respect for humans too. This world is indeed a living being, endowed with a soul and intelligence, a single visible living entity containing all other living entities, which by their nature are all related, said Plato in his book Timaeus, written in 360 BC. Our main crisis is that we no longer see the cosmos as alive, nor do we any longer recognize that we are inseparable from the whole of nature and from our Earth as a living being. Science is a dangerous gift unless it can be brought into contact with wisdom that resides in the sensual, intuitive, and ethical aspects of our nature. For most non-Western cultures, nature is truly alive, and every entity within it is endowed with agency, intelligence, and wisdom. This animistic perception is archetypal and primordial. Caught up in a mass of abstractions, our attention hypnotized by a host of human-made technologies that only reflect us back to ourselves, it is all too easy for us to forget our carnal inherence in a more than human matrix. Our bodies have formed themselves in delicate reciprocity with the manifold textures of an animate earth. Our eyes have evolved in subtle interaction with the eyes of other animals. To shut ourselves off from these other voices, to continue by our lifestyles, to condemn these other sensibilities to the oblivion of extinction, is to rob our own senses of their integrity, and to rob our minds of their coherence. We are human only in contact and conviviality with what is not human. It was only when science convinced us that nature was dead that it could begin its autopsy in earnest. But a living, aware, and soul-filled world does not respond well to autopsy. There is no environment out there that is separate from us. We can't manage our impact on the environment if we are our surroundings. Indigenous people try to explain that we are born of the earth and constructed from its elements. You didn't come into this world. You came out of it, like a wave from the ocean. You are not a stranger here. Technology is destructive only in the hands of people who do not realize that they are one and the same process as the universe. For a very long time, I thought that the term Gaia was one of those culty things where people cherish and fear Gaian force of nature. And while such groups do exist, I never expected how much would unfold for me once I explored the Gaia hypothesis. This approach lets us see pre-existing wisdom, mathematics, and intelligent design in all things around us. There is a difference between calling this planet Earth and Gaia. It personifies the whole planet and gives it a brain and a heart. And for us humans, the best way to understand something is to personify it. The Gaia hypothesis posits that the Earth is a self-regulating complex system. There are four main layers: biosphere, atmosphere, hydrospheres, and the pedosphere, and they are all part of one evolving system. Gaia evolves through a cybernetic feedback system operated by the biota, leading to broad stabilization of the conditions of habitability in a full homeostasis. The term biota exists to refer to all living things in a region or on the planet as a single system, instead of naming every species separately. Scientists need a concise word to describe the entire community of life: plants, animals, fungi, microbes, because these organisms interact and influence each other and their environment. And that's what animists do. Animists are people who recognize that the world is full of persons, only some of whom are human, and that life is always lived in relationship with others. To treat something as inferior, the easiest way is to make it look inanimate. For example, human-to-human genocide depends on dehumanizing the other. So now many countries in the East officially humanize mountains and rivers. The laws are slowly coming into being to establish personhood for them. It is by this act of seeing animate in everything around us that we learn to respect and honor ourselves. Many processes in the Earth's surface, essential for the conditions of life, depend on the interaction of living forms, especially microorganisms with inorganic elements. These processes establish a global control system that regulates Earth's surface. The existence of a planetary homeostasis influenced by living forms had been observed previously in the field of biogeochemistry, and it is being investigated also in other fields like Earth system science. What the Gaia hypothesis does is that it changes the language of science, it stops using mechanical metaphors and moves us to organismic metaphors. Let's try to understand now a connected topic, which is deep ecology. It is an environmental philosophy that promotes the inherent worth of all living beings, regardless of their instrumental utility to human needs, and argues that modern human societies should be restructured in accordance with such ideas. Deep ecologists say that the natural world is a complex of relationships in which the existence of organisms is dependent on the existence of others within ecosystems. The core principle of this movement is the belief that the living environment as a whole should be respected and regarded as having certain basic moral and legal rights to live and flourish, independent of its instrumental benefits for human use. Deep ecology recognizes diverse communities of life on Earth that are composed not only through biotic factors, but also, where applicable, through ethical relations. That is, the valuing of other beings as more than just resources. It is described as deep because it is regarded as looking more deeply into the reality of humanity's relationship with the natural world, arriving at philosophically more profound conclusions than those of mainstream environmentalism. Deep ecologists hold that the survival of any part is dependent upon the well-being of the whole, and criticize the narrative of human supremacy, which they say has not been a feature of most cultures throughout human evolution. But even deep ecology research is far from the reality of nature. No settled family or community has ever called its home place an environment. None has ever called its feeling for its home place biocentric or anthropocentric. None has ever thought of its connection to its home place as ecological, deep, or shallow. The concepts and insights of the ecologists are of great usefulness in our predicament, and we can hardly escape the need to speak of ecology and ecosystems, but the terms themselves are culturally sterile. They come from the juiceless, abstract intellectuality of the universities, which was invented to disconnect, displace, and disembody the mind. It is at least not impossible to regard the Earth's parts, soil, mountains, rivers, atmosphere, etc., as organs or parts of organs of a coordinated whole, each part with its definite function. And if we could see this whole as a whole through a great period of time, we might perceive not only organs with coordinated functions, but possibly also that process of consumption as replacement, which in biology we call metabolism or growth. In such case, we would have all the visible attributes of a living thing, which we do not realize to be such because it is too big and its life process is too slow. Some of you might be familiar with Jung's 4 ways of knowing: intuition, feeling, thinking, and sensing, as a basis of holistic science. That is to say, as a way of seeing holistically with all our senses. He challenged the dominance of reductionist thinking in science and in industrialized societies, and, running countercurrent to the wider scientific community, promoted the engagement of feeling, intuition, embodied sense-making, and systems thinking as ways of seeing and engaging in an ethical and relational way with life. One of the reasons we're destroying the planet is that we have no feeling. We don't feel the beauty of a landscape, we just think, oh, there's coal there or gold. That's why we need more feeling or valuing. Feeling and intuition are much more subtle ways of knowing, but they are ways of knowing just as valid as thinking and sensing are. The way we see the world shapes the way we treat it. If a mountain is a deity, not a pile of ore, if a river is one of the veins of the land, not potential irrigation water, if a forest is a sacred grove, not timber, if other species are our biological kin, not resources, or if the planet is our mother, not an opportunity, then we will treat each one with greater respect. That is the challenge, to look at the world from a different perspective,